Hey everybody, welcome back to Sell Performance Solutions. Chris McCabe here, coming at you with a quick take on the post Cyber 5 life from 2025. We weren't sure what we were going to be seeing for the last several days, the last week, in terms of listing takedowns by Amazon, whether accidentally or on purpose, attacks from competitors against people's ASINs. There were a few, not as many as last year, I would say. So that's good. I'll talk about that for a bit. And also there's been a marked decrease in full account suspensions, or if you're in the account health assurance program, fewer messages going out than what we saw, let's say last month and last year at this time, threatening a full account takedown. So that's good news. I know we have a lot of unsavory news deliverance on this podcast in particular, but today I want to focus on the good. And of course, there were some problems with people getting too many refund requests from different buyers. It looked suspicious. Too many negative reviews that we had to work on to get removed, or just reporting the abuse. I mean, you're trying to get the reviews removed and get action taken against whichever competitor was coming after you, which, as far as I know, we're the only ones really doing that in an escalation style, higher level style within Amazon, not just support cases and so forth. So we'll talk about that a bit today. But beyond that, I would say the results are positive in terms of all the brands I've talked to, all the sellers who have come to us showing us screenshots. I didn't detect any major trends with, too many spikes in negative reviews, or even just the ASIN level actions that we saw last November into December, when they were maybe tinkering a little bit with the AI tools inside Amazon to rewrite people's listings. That's still an issue. Of course, that'll be an issue into the new year. But largely, there were no bot takedowns that were unusual. Of course, if somebody tucks illicit keywords in your back end and tries to get your listing triggered for a manual review or an automated review, and the ASIN ends up closed because of it, or at least you have to appeal because of it. Yeah, I mean, that's going on now just like it always does, and that'll keep going on as long as there are all these backdoor loopholes where people can mess with your keyword and try to initiate a compliance review where Amazon asks you for product documentation that has nothing to do with the type of products you sell or the category you're in. That's been going on for a while. I just didn't see that many new tricks, curveballs, attack strategies. There might be a couple that are still unfolding now that I'll save for next week, because until the 10th, 11th, 12th, we don't really start to see a decline in some of those tactics. Naturally, if you're listening to this and you've seen something that you don't think I've seen already, or you've experienced something that you haven't seen covered on LinkedIn posts, on the seller forums, in social channels, wherever, in a group you're in, then definitely flag it to my attention, because I'm definitely interested in seeing that. We have put a lot of time, effort, and energy into developing reporting channels so that anyone violating TOS gets their just due. If they're hurting sellers, hurting buyers, hurting Amazon, they don't belong in the marketplace. We see all kinds of stuff all over the map. Sometimes there are people at Amazon that ask, hey, have you seen any of this with your clients or the brands you talk to? Obviously, we're going to Amazon and showing them things as well, but it helps if we're all on the same page. And if things are ruled out, I guess it's kind of like getting a medical diagnosis. Maybe they start by ruling certain things out instead of telling you, well, we tried one or two tests and this is exactly what it is. They want to rule things out. So we look at everything as much as possible. If it's something I can post on LinkedIn and say, hey, has anyone seen this? I think I'll be doing that a lot more next year than I have this year. So far this year, I've been trying to play it a little closer to the vest in terms of comparing with what other sellers are telling us in similar circumstances before we start showing things to Amazon, before we start putting things on LinkedIn. I'm going to open that up a little bit next year, just because I think people that don't necessarily work with us, or maybe don't want to email me a PDF or screenshot of what's going on with their listings or with their account, which is fine, by the way. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, it still may help to kind of spread the word, spread the news a little bit earlier, and make everyone aware that certain attacks are going on, certain types of ASIN takedowns are typical. But again, rotating back to Cyber 5, we got through Black Friday, a couple of bumps in the road, nothing much. And Cyber 5 was pretty much the same. I'm aware that abuse teams are a bit more on it. I know sellers are better at reporting abuse, which makes life easier for Amazon teams. So that's part one. Part two is that abuse teams have more of a kind of reservoir of examples from past years or past Prime days in terms of peak sales periods and what types of tricks different sellers try to employ. Maybe they're getting a little bit better. They won't necessarily show us that roadmap, but maybe they're getting a little bit better with how they identify who's attacking, how they're attacking, when they're attacking, and just upping their game and getting better at responding quicker. I think not just sending a message, hey, we'll take a look at it when we get a chance, but we're really busy right now. It's Q4. We'll get back to you later. They understand that real money's being lost inside their doors in terms of their revenue, and for sellers, of course. And anytime ASIN information's inaccurate, anytime bad reviews that aren't substantiated by actual buyer experience, let's say, anytime those stay up, anytime sellers get shot down while a competitor who's using black hat methodology stays up and selling in your category, I think they understand that's just bad for business. It's bad for everybody. They know that you hate it and they're aware of that. They do ask sellers to understand they have a mountain they have to climb with all of the reports they get. And some of those require deep dive investigation. A lot of them that I've seen require deep dive investigation just for us to go through it, to put together some brief written material or language that can go into an abuse report that goes into Amazon. So imagine how it is for them. You know, we're doing 1, 2, 3 of these at a time. They're doing 1, 2, 300 of them at a time. So that's the part where some compassion, especially this time of year, is worth talking about. Give them a chance to assess. Don't send them messages every other day saying, oh, what about that attack I told you about? If it's something that's taking your entire account down or your ASIN is down, yes, of course, I'm not telling you not to appeal and to wait 48 hours. But if it's something within your category that you notice, and this applies all the time, all through December, not just this week, make sure you give them a head start. One thing I've been concerned about is people who wait too long to report abuse, or they're afraid of retaliation, which I'm going to be dealing with in an article I'm working on right now that'll be out soon. But if you're already getting attacked, then you shouldn't be worrying more about retaliation for reporting it and letting the attack happen to you. Amazon knows you're not going to just sit there and get attacked. You're not ticking off Amazon by showing them a legit abuse report or a complaint, right? You might tick them off if you spam them every 3 hours about it, which is normal if you're panicking, if you're sending in hasty messages because you're confused, you don't know what to do. It's hectic, it's chaotic, it's disorganized. I mean, they understand that. I understand it. And everyone would understand how you feel, but do it in a strategic way. And don't waste time, of course, with seller support cases, writing to Jeff, all that stuff, especially at this time of year. Probably doesn't work really at any time of year for the past several months or so, but anything like that you need to put in front of us, feel free to share it. I didn't see massive gaping holes in Q4 so far. Really is better than last year, but especially the last week or 10 days, I didn't see nearly as much strife and friction as last year, which is to the credit of the sellers who have gotten better at reporting abuse and Amazon itself for taking it more seriously. I'm sure they took it seriously before, but acting quicker and taking seriously the volume of reports that they have, what's driving it, who are the main players. And when it comes down to it, I think Amazon also understands that sellers like to form groups. They like to be in masterminds. They like to be in this or that monthly or annual pay-in group where notes are shared and services might promote themselves to the entire group, which means numerous sellers all at once are going to start using those tips and tricks. And I think Amazon's aware that sellers pretty much just ask the service or third party, hey, are you compliant with Amazon's terms of service? And once they get a yes, they kind of file it away and forget about it. That's the part they're going to blame you for, blindly or gullibly just believing what you're told just because somebody used some service and they didn't get a full account suspension. Probably not the yardstick you want to be using. A much better yardstick is, okay, well, this is what the service said they do. Here's my own interpretation of all the policy pages and code of conduct pages that I've reviewed. Is there a gap? Is there a middle ground where they think they're living, where it's vague? In my reading of the policy pages, which I guess is pretty conservative and stark, but I don't see a lot of wiggle room in there. I know that they're generally written. They're not written in infinitesimal detail, but the intent and the themes seem pretty clear and directed to me, trying to finesse it. If you talk to people at Amazon and they see the different attempts at so-called gray area activity, they don't see a lot of gray area, number one. Number two, they don't really agree with the interpretations of their policies or the finessing that sellers, I mean, typically they've taken the action against the seller and the seller's putting it in the appeal, right? When they've already had the enforcement action and the seller's trying to explain themselves. Well, they don't really want the explanation so much. I mean, they do ask you for what happened, but they want to understand why you interpreted policies in a way that could hurt Amazon, hurt yourself, hurt buyers, hurt other sellers. They're kind of fed up with that nonsense. And I think one reason appeals have become more black and white and they ask for fewer POAs or plans of action in the last 12 to 18 months is because they just don't want to have these ridiculous debates anymore with sellers who say, well, we belong to a group and there was a service and they're promoting it and we thought it was okay and they said it was okay and other sellers using it said it was okay. I mean, you're kind of skating on thin ice already if you're just going for that kind of approach. But, you know, high risk, high reward behaviors, yeah, there might be an initial short-term payoff. Are you in Amazon for the long haul or the short haul? That's the question you have to ask yourself. The last several years, with the advent of brands presumably growing so that they can sell, maybe not to an aggregator anymore, but to sell to another party, you're all in it for the long game, right? I think there are just a handful of reseller accounts out there that understand that they're day to day and they're in it for however long they can be in it. But any private label brands, anyone playing with fire, is it worth it to get the boost of sales rank or an initial infusion of a few positive reviews if you're risking the entire account with behaviors that just kind of don't work anymore? I mean, it's pretty obvious to Amazon what you're trying to do. It's pretty obvious to other sellers who compete with you, who might report you what you're trying to do. It's obvious to me if somebody hires us to report what you're doing, because they do it all the time, because we understand Amazon's interpretation and we also know the channels to report it. So questions on that. Hopefully you're seeing the positive side of things from Cyber 5. You're not getting attacked. You're not dealing with appeals right now. But if you are having trouble with it and you need me to look it over, give us a shout at e-commerce Chris. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening during such a busy time.